The Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts right now.
There's always room to celebrate natural hair out there. When we come back, we meet an advocate for hair equality who is also doing his part to uplift young people. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. This next segment is an issue that Factor has tackled over and over again. Black kids being kicked out of their schools or punished because of their hair. There was DeAndre Arnold at Barbers Hill and more recently Duro Dino in Houston. He was allegedly criticized by his baseball coach for his afro. That coach has now since been transferred because of alleged racist activities with the baseball team. Now Duro is getting his time in the spotlight. But because he's such a young guy, he didn't want to talk again. He already talked to us in the past here on The Factor. He just wants to move on, but he did let us get video of him. Now he's getting time in the spotlight by a man who's traveled the country highlighting black kids in photos who have been ostracized because of their hair. Meet Jermaine Horton with The Art of Confidence.
Usually when you let out a really loud, aggressive, gorilla-type scream, it's like so relieving. And you think about the situation at that time, it's like a stress reliever.
So Jermaine, this is your third trip to Houston to deal with the hair issue. You're highlighting young people who may have been kicked out of school or ostracized in school by the administration because of their hair. You ever get tired of making those trips around the country, even though you're highlighting and celebrating them? But there's so much negativity associated with it.
It is, and it always seems like I come to Texas, man. That's the crazy part. But, you know...
You should just set up a bureau here.
Yeah, you might be right. It's one of those things that you hate to have it, but you're glad that you do, so that you can have these children still have a sense of confidence and still feel proud of who they are and their heritage and where they come from. So it's tiring, it's exhausting. You know, we have the Crown Act that's enabled, and but they don't apply sometimes to sports.
Now, the last time you were here for DeAndre Arnold, who was from Barbers Hill, where they would not allow him to march in his graduation because of his locks.
That is correct.
And we see what happened with DeAndre.
Absolutely. The man is thriving. He's doing some amazing things. And I'm so glad he didn't cut his hair, because when COVID happened, most people didn't even get to go to their graduation. Right. And so now he's an advocate for hair, you know, and sometimes we don't know that job that God has for us, and the fact that now he's an advocate for hair and other black and brown children, I think that's exceptional. I think it's powerful, and you know, it thrusts these children into early situations to where they have to be these activists for these roles when they just want to be kids and live their lives. You know, grab that bat, tighten up on it, flex. I want you to give me everything you can when you do it, all right?
Now, you're in town now for Duro, who attended Bel Air, transferred to another high school because they wouldn't allow him to wear his afro during baseball. And that led to some other racism issues where the coach was eventually kicked out of the school or transferred. Why was it important to get Duro's story?
Because, you know, how many other Duros are there, you know, and how many people are not allowed to speak up or not speaking up because they're just like, oh, well, this is just what happens, you know, it happens here or it happens there. That's not the case, it shouldn't. But now we got the hard part out the way, the emotional part. Now we're just gonna do some epic baseball shots. There's nothing wrong with his hair, you know, his hair fits into his helmet, it fits into his cap, you know, and at what point do we say enough is enough? Not everybody can have curly hair, straight hair, and have blue eyes. This is not how it works.
So you're not buying that this is part of sports and you have to adhere to the rules. You feel like there is racism there.
Absolutely. If you look into the 70s, you know how many players had afros in the 70s when they were playing baseball? You know, I feel like it's a thing where there are systems in place that tears down our children, and it starts off young, and they tell them, your hair shouldn't look like this. Your hair should look like your peers. He doesn't look like his peers. Every one of us doesn't look like the next person. And so it has to be where individuals understand cultures, understand our hairstyles, and that's why we have the Crown Act that's enabled. It's the reason why I took it upon myself to be involved in that group to say, hey, you know, we can make a change. We can do it differently. And if it takes one Duro at a time and this spreads out and others say, hey, you know what? Well, maybe there needs to be a change. Then I feel like I've done my job, and so has Duro himself.
Duro, as a baseball player, what caught your attention about his story other than just hair?
The fact that, you know, it was one of those here we go again. And, you know, when you hear from his mom says, you know, my son is a good kid, you know, and it's so many good children out here that experience these situations. And sometimes it's a good thing where you can have someone like myself come out, but how many other children do not have this opportunity, and they go into depression and then think about suicide, and you're wondering, well, why did a 10, 12, 15, 16-year-old end up taking their life? And some people may think that these issues are minute, but they're really not. It's just a snowball that starts happening and escalating until they can't release it. You know, most children don't know how to release emotions, and they do it in the wrong way. So I just wanted to help out another young, amazing individual, just one kid at a time.
Way to go, Duro, and way to go, Jermaine.